Hi, everybody. Welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast. It is our best of the year episode for the year 2022. A little bit late getting down here, yeah?
Yes.
Things have been busy. You're working, I'm working. I'm coaching, you're
Not.
Very true. So we're here to talk about the best things from wrestling from 2022 to be followed up at some point by our worst of episode. These are always fun, right? To do. I enjoy it. A little bit different this year. We've streamlined it. Not quite as many categories, I don't think.
Yeah, because NXT is not worth.
Right, because and that's another point.
NXT is not worth anything.
We're combining all of the rosters kind of this year into each award because we're not separating NXT and AEW because one of us, I won't tell you which one, doesn't watch NXT.
At least in 2021, it was mostly still NXT.
Right.
Before it crapped the bed.
So before we get into specifics, I was just thinking, like, overall this year, if I had to sort of break things down, one, I've never been less entertained by WWE. Would you disagree?
Yeah.
Because we would check in with the weekly TV every now and then, couldn't really watch more than like half an hour at a time, probably.
I don't remember watching Raw After Mania, which is usually our thing.
Anyway, yeah. And then we watch all of the premium live events other than I don't watch the ones in Saudi Arabia for whatever reason, but like we would find and I think I liked it better than you, but it would be like one match I usually liked
Right.
and then another one that was pretty good, and I think you were even
like there wasn't really a lot.
It left us sort of asking ourselves, like, this product just isn't for us, right? And the way they're constructing it and whoever their target
It's just
audience
not there anymore.
Whoever their target audience is, it isn't us, right? So not a great year for WWE for me. I mean, obviously the Bloodline storyline
That kind of peaked this
was
year.
super hot, kind of cooled off, and then when Sammy got involved, it was like better than ever kind of thing. So that was the only real reason to keep up with WWE for me, and then a couple good pay-per-view matches along the way.
Right.
And then I would think you would agree it's the worst year of NXT.
Oh, absolutely. It was
the 2.0 era was...
I don't remember. I think I quit before the year, but it's horrible, and they say it's changed, but has it really? Like, I mean, even to like
Slightly.
the Stevie Turner vignette, that feels so 2.0 to me.
It seems like it's changing. Even like this week, a lot more people debuted, right? This being January 12th, this past episode a couple days ago, seems like they're going to get more established talent again and not so much just brand new rookies.
It's just, it reeks of like they still need to fix it, you know?
It's not great. So I would say, like, you bailed after a little bit of 2.0, right? You tried about a month, maybe.
Bad. Yeah.
So WWE never
a
been
month or two.
Main roster never been less entertaining for me. NXT was the worst year, and this is going to sound harsh, but I also think this is the weakest year of AEW.
I don't know. I didn't really notice.
TV wise, not
Even
pay-per-view
so, I
wise.
didn't notice a ton.
Still very, very entertaining. By far my favorite show every week. Still enjoy almost every week, right? There's only been a couple weeks that I didn't give it at least a B rating. So when I say it's a down year, that's because the first couple years for me were super amazing, and it's still really, really good. So I'm not trying to say like I don't like anything in wrestling. AEW is our favorite. It consistently entertains us, but if I were to like stack it up against the other years, it's probably my least favorite year, although some of the pay-per-views were amazing, I have to say.
Yes.
Right? So I don't know, what are your...
Certainly a newsworthy year as well, right? Like, if
yes.
you had told me at the beginning of the year that Vince McMahon was going to be gone, and like Tony Khan buying ROH, even that's still pretty insane. The whole CM Punk thing, like
all of that, yeah.
Like there's some pretty nuts
outside the ring and outside of
booking, right?
Yeah, there's been a huge year.
Some pretty nuts.
So I don't know. Do you have any other? Do you disagree with those overall thoughts, or you're sort of similar?
Other than I didn't really notice much of AEW, but I do think there was a bit of a downturn considering some of the ones we didn't really love.
Yeah, there was a few episodes we didn't love.
NXT is a complete afterthought in my life, and now it's just WWE as a whole, pretty much.
Right.
Even when Triple H, like he did improve things, but even then, like it kind of plateaued.
Well, and to improve things from terrible to bad, like, okay, cool, right? It's still not good. It's still, and again, I know if you listen to the show, you've heard us say it before. I'm not doing 3 hours of anything, especially once a week, right?
That's the thing. It's a weekly thing. Like I can watch a 3-hour movie, that's fine, but I'm not watching it every week on the same day, you know?
Especially on top of other wrestling we watch. And then the only other company I watch is Impact, and I feel like they're pretty much the same. It's like a holding
and like
pattern.
They're not high profile enough to be like amazing either, so it's like not, again, also an afterthought for me.
Yeah. So that's my overall thoughts on the year. I guess we should start getting into more specifics. So we, just to give you an idea of the format, we'll give you the category. I tried to put them in like, so we end with the most important or biggest ones.
Right.
Sort
Yeah,
of
that's
thing.
kind of the typical thing, kind of like the previews.
Yeah, and we'll give you a few nominees. The no set number. It kind of depended on the category. Some categories lent themselves to like easy bunch of nominees, and some it was a struggle to get more than 2 or 3, right? So, and then we'll discuss our picks. So, do you want to get into that? I guess.
Sounds good.
So the first award, I'll tell what it is, and then you can go nominees,
Okay.
and we'll go pick. So the
Sounds
first
good.
award we went with is Best Commentator, again, considering AEW, NXT, WWE main roster, right? So that is our first category. What do we got for nominees?
So from AEW, we have Excalibur and Tony Schiavone, which
Right.
are obviously because Taz is pretty good, but he wasn't always there, and JR is JR.
Right.
And then I think they had some good guest ones, but obviously that's not really in
Yeah, we're
consideration.
talking about consistent. I would agree. JR doesn't, like, I don't enjoy him anymore, despite I'll always say he's the best commentator ever, but he's on the downside, obviously, at this point. Yeah, and Taz, yeah, I agree.
And then Tom Hannafan from Impact, formerly known as Todd Phillips.
He's really, really good. And I know you'll watch a bit of Impact if it's on and you're doing something else, but
he's pretty good. He was good. He was decent in main roster.
I've been
sorry,
really
whenever he
impressed,
was on,
really impressed with him.
Mm-hmm. And Michael Cole, because he's solid.
And honestly, I think once Vince is gone and not in his ear constantly, like, he is really good at his job.
He's just a catchphrase machine,
It's
though.
just he's told what to say a lot of the time, right? So I don't think it's his fault, like we say with the wrestlers and the writing sometimes, right? I don't think it's his fault necessarily, but okay. Do you want to do your pick first or me?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the easy pick is Excalibur. We both always talk about how great he is sometimes. Far and away the best voice I consistently hear. He seems to have like kind of solid banter with everyone. Like
he does.
Like I feel like WWE sometimes this thing is like, they always pile on Byron, or like I feel like him and like Schiavone at least have like decent.
I agree.
Like,
I like the dynamic.
Him and Taz, like the dynamics are good, right? And he knows basically every move known to man, anyone ever does, and consistently busts out names in terms I've never heard before. Like I'm learning from him very much. And they've asked him time and time again to run down lengthy match cards or lineups, and he'll nail it in like a minute, like his life depends on it.
It's ridiculous.
It's insane. Easily him, but honorable mention to Schiavone, because I do like him, actually. I think he's like, he kind of flies under the radar, but he's pretty good. I like him.
Yeah, with Excalibur, there's been multiple times every year in our notes where we're like, "Thank you, Excalibur," right? Because it's something we didn't know what it was, and he tells us. So again, like, I think Hannafan is really good, and I honestly think he's improved Impact's overall presentation since he's arrived, just because he's really good, and what he was replacing was really not good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge difference between what was there. But I have to agree with you. I think Excalibur is the absolute best in the business from what we listen to, right?
Right.
Whether it's calling matches, like labeling holds and moves and
Gigi
things.
Katami.
And yes, like you said, running down like impossibly long lists of matches in like seconds.
Right.
I think he is.
He gets everything.
He does. He's the best right now.
Yeah,
I agree.
Super talented.
So we may have a lot of consensus on this, but we are.
I noticed that too. I was trying to kind of avoid it at times, but it just happens, you know.
But we are related, to be fair, and we do watch all our wrestling together. So I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess, if we agree a lot. And some things are just clear winners in some categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. All right, so the next one, I think it was the last one I added actually to
right.
our document.
Yeah, I had to kind of last minute it, but it's not a hard choice either.
Is best non-wrestling performer, so that opens up like managers, any sort of seconds, whoever's coming with. If you wanted to say Penelope Ford, like that.
I thought that's fair, because like, as long as they have like I would say a decent amount in a non-wrestling capacity, because even like, because she does wrestle, but obviously like a valet, right? Or like Selena Vega, I guess, right?
Yeah,
if you want to go there, like, absolutely. They have to have at least a decent capacity outside of in-ring action, or completely out of it, which is fine.
Your nominees?
So what we have is the special counsel to the Bloodline, Paul Heyman, the founder-ish of Blackpool Combat Club, William Regal, and then the firm's Stokely Hathaway, FKA Diamond Mines, Malcolm Bivens.
Right. Do you want to alternate who goes first?
Sounds good.
So I will go first on this one. So Heyman is great all the time, but I feel like he's kind of moved to the background with the Bloodline, right? Because everybody else is so good right now. He's still playing a prominent role. And to be fair, I don't watch everything Bloodline. It's one of the storylines I actually keep up on. But as someone watching Dynamite every week, I was most entertained by Regal. I thought he was fantastic, pretty much in any capacity, other than, and it's not his fault, the way they wrote him off of Dynamite I didn't think was super creative, but I think
Yeah, that was kind of the weak point, and I think he kind of poorly timed his jump
yes.
to WWE in
Yes.
light of recent events.
But yeah, for sure. But he formed a really interesting group despite them having to feud with Jazz for the majority of the year, literally, right? And he did really well in any sort of performance that they wanted him to do. Even just his facial expressions, right, are fantastic. So yeah, for me it was pretty easy. Regal wins.
That was one of the things I said too. Is like I remember even you pointing at it, and then I kind of noticed in turn was like he adds a lot of like subtle expressions and kind of nuances to his stuff. In addition to like cutting some pretty good promos. Like I think it was like with MJF he was pretty on par.
Yep.
So I think that's worth noting. And so I picked Regal too. I think I love Blackpool as a whole. I think that was a really fun thing throughout the year, other than being tied up with Jazz. But like as their own thing, I really like Blackpool. I wish he did stay because I think he kind of poorly timed his jump, but that's all right.
Yeah, as long as he's happy, I don't.
I think he's great. He delivered some great promos. I liked his character. He had that kind of talent for delivering like subtlety and stuff, and like just the way like in his shift when he was heel and like just everything he does. Like he's just really great. I would like him more back in WWE if he could be general manager again, but like 'cause even that he was great, which wasn't this year, but
or managing his son. That would be interesting to me too.
Yeah. He was interesting in his whole run. I think that's worth mentioning because he was in AEW for less than a year, but I think he was like pretty stellar.
Yeah, and Hathaway's good, but I feel like his
Hathaway's
role
good, but like and he's kind of
minor
too,
compared
right?
to the rest. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Paul Heyman's just a classic.
Absolutely, one of the best ever, I think. All right, so next category, we sort of, I don't know what way to call it, but it's either most improved or breakout performer based on how you really think about this type of award, right? So somebody who's kind of made a big leap, whether it's bound
to get better,
whether it's in-ring talent or the spotlight they've gotten or just overall presentation, whatever each of us brings criteria we bring to that, right? So nominees for that?
So we got the Acclaimed, which is a no-brainer. Wardlow getting that kind of Batista push.
He got a huge feud with MJF, right? Was huge this year.
Braun Breaker won the title and basically never let it go, other than Dolph Ziggler.
That's right.
He kind of really broke out. Takeshita, who just came out of nowhere and just wowed us instantly.
Yes, FNS favorite. Oh, look at the list of nominees for this one.
It's pretty sweet. Aussie Open.
Yep.
I think anytime they were on AEW, I love them.
Yep.
I wish I saw more of them. I thought United Empire on the whole was awesome.
Agree.
Jamie Hayter became really popular in the end of the year as champ, which I didn't think would happen at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
So I think that's a prime example. Like I wouldn't have expected that, right? So I
agree.
think that works out really well. Creed's kind of became a better team.
Oh yeah,
they're
really good now.
That, but they've become like
especially Julius.
There. Yeah. Carmelo Hayes owned the North American title. I think he's definitely primed for a top spot now.
Just a star, that guy.
Right?
Yep.
And even in the 2.0 era, which I think something has to be said for that, right?
He did stand out in 2.0.
And Ricky Starks, who became like uber popular off the back of Team Taz splitting, which was like he was hot for a while, and they rebuilt it too.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite categories because this is what I love, right? Like people that are kind of fresh and new that are getting really good. Because I was thinking about it the other day because I compare everything to sports, and so do you, right? Being a big sport guy.
You know me. Sport ball.
Sport ball is your favorite,
obviously.
It like I don't want to watch. I don't get excited by like a guy that's got 25, 30 years experience. Like I don't want to watch a baseball player that's played for 25 years, right? The only exception is LeBron playing 20 years and he's still amazing. But like,
then that means he's still amazing.
I want to see the next big thing, right? I want to see the young talent that's going to be huge.
I don't want to see Brock Lesnar. What the hell?
Well, yeah, not literally. But anyway, so it's your turn. So who won this one?
Oh, it's my turn?
It is your turn.
Oh, that's me.
I'm sure I'll forget at some point whose turn it is. Right. But for now, I'm not dialed in.
I agree with what you said. I really think we have a great list for this one because you can make a pretty solid argument for basically everyone, which I guess is the point of nominating them, the goal and everything. But like, it feels a lot closer here, right? Like, I feel like most of the time it's like sometimes like you nominate people who deserve to be nominated, but like they're still like the obvious pick. But I feel like here you can make an argument for some of them at least, right?
Yep.
These are close, save for a few standouts. Honorable mentions obviously goes to Takeshita. He killed it every time I saw him, won me over from the get go. And I'm super excited to see if he gets a push this year because that'll be amazing.
That's the word.
And even though I didn't watch it, honorable mention to Mello, who stayed consistently great through the worst period of NXT, which I think you have to recognize that.
Right.
And he's poised for the top NXT spot, which I think is great. But I think the Acclaim makes the most logical sense. If you told me at the beginning of 2022 that one of their shirts would be the most sold of the year, which I think that's what it was.
I agree, it was.
I probably would have laughed it off. Like, but ever since their face turn, which, I was originally against, I'll admit. Their act has improved tenfold. The popularity at times was absurd. Scissoring is way more over than it has any right to be. They've gone Billy Gunn over again, which I think props to them because Billy Gunn's old. You
Yep.
know, their in-ring work has maintained pretty solid too. The music videos are always entertaining. Their
Oh yeah.
entrance is one of the best to watch because it's always going to be
Yep.
unique, right? Like I don't know how you're going to put that in the video game. You know what I
Right.
mean? The reign has been pretty good this far too. Like it wasn't like Thunder Rosa where it was kind of like you had hopes for it and it kind of was
The
just
longer
meh.
she holds the title, the less we like her.
Right.
That
I
was
think the
tough.
Acclaimed have maintained a solid hold on it, and I think like they've become a real like class act. Like it's just an all around great act now.
And that's a good point. It's the whole like they're good in ring, and I think
It's
I've
all
been really
encompassing.
impressed by Bowens this year. But it's the
Yeah.
whole presentation. It's the
Right.
entrance with the unique rap every time. It's the videos that are pretty much consistently hilarious. Um, so yeah, I love Takeshita too, and I think like he's not out of question for this award next year,
Right.
right? If he
Because
does
or
get that
this year.
this year,
With that push on the horizon, like
right?
I'm really I hope he gets it because I would love to just be like
Yes.
Takeshita like
So he didn't quite do enough to earn it for me this year. So I agree with you. It's got to be the Acclaim, just a gigantic leap. If we're talking about like most improved, it just
Mhm.
so they won gold. They really, really
I
connected
think
with
they
the
improved in
crowd.
like basically every
Yep,
aspect.
connected with the crowd on a huge level, right? Like they were
Mhm.
the biggest thing for a
Even being a
month,
FTR who were
Y-
hot at one point as
right?
well.
So they got as big a reaction from crowds as anyone at times. Hater would probably be my honorable mention because I really like her and I'm happy that she's being presented the way she is. But I still think she's kind of like, I don't know, halfway or 2/3 of the way through that momentum, and the Acclaimed are further along in that path. So I took the Acclaimed as
Mhm.
well. All right, next award is Best Feud of the Year.
So what would you say has to like get it in to be like a feud? Just to kind of outline it, I guess.
Like I would say weeks of segments and multiple matches.
I think
I
multiple
feel
matches
like
at least,
right.
right?
Yep, I
You can
think
have a
so.
mini feud, but then I feel like if it's a mini feud with one match, it doesn't really warrant
And almost
being
like
here.
culminating or involving a pay-per-view,
Yep,
or you know what I mean, like something
something
along
like
those
that. Yeah.
lines. Yeah.
So we got FTR Briscoes, one of the biggest of the year, no
Right.
brainer.
Yep.
Late addition in the Elite Death Triangle, which was awesome,
Yes.
though simple. Rhodes Rollins, which was probably one of the best main roster feuds of the year.
One of the definitely one of the
Probably
few
the
that
best
interested
main
me.
roster feud on here. Like it doesn't win for me, but the only other main roster one is Sheamus and Gunther, and I
Yeah.
think Rhodes Rollins is better. So Rhodes Rollins,
Yep.
honorable mention for best main roster feud of the year, which
I
doesn't
would
say
say
much,
so.
but it's still something. MJF CM Punk, which I forgot was this year. I'll be
I know.
honest. Like the dog collar match was Revolution, which was March, which I'll be honest, I feel like it was way longer
Yeah.
than that. So much has happened.
Yeah. That was a big feud, and we don't love to give CM Punk a lot of credit
And I
around here,
won't.
but
And finally Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, which I also think Rhodes Rollins is better than that. Sorry, there is another main roster one.
but they produced some really entertaining matches,
Yeah.
I thought, this year, and it was
A
a
lot
pretty
better
good
than
story.
having a one that was less than a minute.
Right. So I guess it's my turn this
Indeed.
time. So like if it were just matches, then it would be down to FTR Briscoes and Death Triangle Elite, but I'm also trying to include like the pre-match builds and promos and weekly TV and stuff. Um so my winner has to be, I guess, CM Punk and MJF, that feud this year. Like we got two guys who are amazing on the mic. Say what you will about CM Punk, we're not big fans, but the guy can talk, right?
Yes.
Um
when he wants to.
And so can MJF, obviously. These are two of the best on the mic. So that just kind of going
We'll
back
get
and
there.
forth. The promos were great for weeks. The in-ring was really good as well. If I had paid more attention to WWE, maybe Rollins Rhodes, because I did enjoy that, and they're going to have really strong matches. But for me, just if I'm remembering myself in the moment as the feud was happening, I was really, really interested in Punk MJF. So that's what I went with.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough one because I think it's pretty close again. FTR Briscoes was awesome. That Triangle Elite was a late candidate that I loved. And Punk and MJF, they all have their merits. I think those are the top three. Punk MJF does make sense, I'll agree. But I feel like some of it was at the end of 2021. And also, I refuse to give Punk any more recognition. So allow me to
True.
further justify a different pick.
Right.
I do think, to be fair, like there were times at that where I just didn't care because it was CM Punk. Like
Yeah.
even then, it's just like I don't know. Like the dog collar match was just so underwhelming. Too.
Yeah.
Like it was great at times, and so one of their segments was awesome. But I refuse to pick anything with CM Punk. So I'm gonna take a bit of an outside pick with the trios feud, the Death Triangle Elite. I
Yeah.
really liked it. A bit of an outside pick, but it was one of the best, albeit a late one. It was really simple the way they built it before they had matches, but I really loved the way they did it. Like
it's
they
given
did
us
it with no promos, which I
2
think
months
is
of great matches. Oh,
right.
yeah, I like the little. You're right. The little promos.
It was
were
impressive how great that was with nothing.
Good. I forgot
basically.
about that. You're right. With the little like disappearing images on the promos and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was It was interesting, and then yeah, they delivered weekly bangers, and they all have history, so everything just kind of clicked there. I
Yep.
think it just clicked every time, basically.
Great choice.
FTR Briscoes was just as good, but I felt like they always built it quick last minute. Especially remember the second match, which was awesome,
Yes.
but it felt like, oh, here's the pay-per-view coming, and like the last one, it was built by the Guns
And
the
they-
week before,
And they wouldn't have Briscoes on AEW TV,
Right.
right? So to
So,
me that cost
it felt
them.
lacking in the feud department. While the
Yes.
matches were bangers,
Right.
It doesn't.
Although we like the
There's-
last one less than most people.
Yeah,
The
which
dog
that
collar.
kind of coincidentally.
Right.
And Punk gets no love here.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, now we're going to talk about best storyline. So that's different from a feud. That would be some sort of mostly outside the ring, the story arc that they're telling within each company, I guess, because we do have multiple companies represented. We do.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. WWE gets 2/3 of these here, right? And then I think one is sort of like a little dark horse that I thought was really entertaining from AEW. So anyways, go ahead.
So we have Sami Zayn joins the Bloodline. You can see where this goes. Cody Rhodes returning to WWE and Yuta getting in Blackpool.
I feel like we have to be missing something from
I feel
AEW.
like I'm missing something. I don't like
Like the MJF Wardlow stuff.
that was but like I don't know, it just kind of petered out. Like that ended like around Revolution,
Like I'm
which
thinking,
was
are
like
we
the spring.
are we missing some story with MJF? He seems like the most likely candidate.
That
for
was
me.
a great story, yeah. But like a lot of that story involved him being absent.
Yes.
So I don't know.
I agree.
Anyways, it does kind of even
We'll
things
go with
out,
what we
so
got.
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
What did
alright.
what did you go for?
Honorable mention of Blackpool because that was pretty good. Actually, went and lasted,
was.
and then it resulted in a pretty nice faction that I still enjoy.
And I think it made Yuta too, right?
Yep,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
I like Yuta a lot more from that. But I think Zayn's work this year was incredible. Him being accepted in the Bloodline, whole story was by far the most interesting thing on the main roster TV. And the payoff with the shirt, plus the one at War Games, like when we were watching that was a nice little payoff. Those were fantastic, and it was a surprise gem this year.
It
And
really
like
was.
I think he started out in the Royal Rumble with Johnny Knoxville, and then went to like Giant Hands and Mousetrap.
Oh, that's coming up. Don't worry,
now,
buddy.
and then he got like one of the best things of the year. I think that's got to be applauded.
Yeah, I don't really watch. I guess the nicest thing I can say is I don't watch main roster WWE, but I kept up with this storyline,
Good
right?
Canadian boy.
And just amazed every week by the work of Sami Zayn because
Absolutely.
it was Bloodline was a great story. Then it sort of petered a little bit. It was sort of slipping.
I think
and then
2021 was not their year.
And then he was like a shot of adrenaline, right? So everyone involved at this point is doing amazing. Like the fact that there's now the Usos are being presented as different people instead of it's just the Usos and they were the same.
I mean,
and you
now
couldn't-
they're both kind of on board with Sammy,
Right.
but that was a payoff.
right. So they actually treated them as two separate individuals, which I really liked.
Yeah.
I thought it was compelling TV for many, many weeks, and the only thing to look forward to on WWE TV, but the best story consistently in wrestling this year. So it's not like we hate WWE and we can't give them credit. It's that
There's some things from them I really like this year, and we'll
Yes.
get there. But
we will. It's just in general, overwhelmingly, not a big fan of
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of their
and
stuff.
sometimes really, really bad.
So from best wrestling storyline to biggest wrestling story, do you like my
I guess
do you like
maybe.
my IRL because I'm like a cool fellow teenager?
You just ruined it though.
I know that's why I did
Or
it.
like best news story, even like you could go
Yeah.
there, right?
Yes.
So we had the CM Punk press conference and aftermath, which was just something else. Vince retiring 5 days before my birthday.
Which in lieu of recent events is not so much a retirement, but kind of
Yes.
makes me want to change my pick, but I'm not going to. Because
we'll leave it like 2022 is 2022.
true. You're right.
Right.
You're right.
Tony Khan buying ROH.
Yep.
Banks and Naomi walking out, which I'm gonna admit I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bray Wyatt re-signing.
Yep. Whose turn is it? I already
I think
forgot.
it's you.
It's me. I this one wasn't hard for me. It has to be Vince retiring. Like the wrestling world was fully obsessed with the CM
Right,
Punk
but the
elite
thing with Vince is like that's the thing I thought would never happen.
He is literally the biggest name in the history, I would suggest.
and
of
he just
pro
seemed like such a
wrestling.
guy like he's gonna work to the grave.
Right, of course. And so no one thought he would ever retire, that he would basically die in his office
Yeah,
sort
because
of
like
thing.
so
or-
what he got allegations. You know how many times he avoided
Exactly.
the freaking steroid trial in jail and like
And that's the thing. All of this was amid some scandal and just nonstop news cycle for quite a while. So I didn't find this category very tough. And that's a huge story because the CM Punk elite stuff was really, really.
Oh,
in any
that
other
was-
year, that probably wins.
in any other year,
right?
easily.
But no, it's Vince retiring.
Mhm. I want to pick the Punk saga. I really do. The whole thing was just insane. But I did say I won't pick Punk. and it has to be the Vince allegations and the subsequent retirement. I would never believe that if someone told
Nope.
me at the beginning that this would happen. I would hope for it. I would dream of it even, but I'd never expect this. Like, this is a guy you would think would legitimately be working till the day he dies.
Yep.
Like, he's not handing it over unless he pry it out of his dead hands. And it happened 5 days before my birthday, so it's probably the best early birthday gift I could get. Not now.
Yeah.
But it's probably the craziest thing this year, although Punk nearly took the cake, but he didn't get nothing, and like Vince left. He actually left.
Yep.
Like he is coming back. He did come back to sell, but like still, it's insane that even happened. Like that he even had to come back to sell.
Well, that got covered in mainstream news. That's a pretty good indication as
Right,
well that
yes.
that's the biggest story, right? That was
like outside of our
story.
scope.
Yeah, transcended the little niche world of wrestling.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, next one I guess we're ready for is going to be what we call best on the mic. So this is male or female. I was including here, which I guess we could have added Britt Baker, but I feel like her role was so much less this year.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So yeah, we're gonna who's consistently the best when they pick up a microphone, whether it's live or recorded promos. I don't really care, right? So nominees.
Obviously MJF, which is a no-brainer. Moxley, who just like has a knack for putting people over. Even in character, like
in like a heel capacity or not.
like even like remember when Hangman got concussed, he saved the show. He still cut a solid promo like on the spot.
Yes.
Like
he did.
The most reliable, right?
Yep.
And we'll get there. Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, who pulled out some nice ones at the end of the year.
He's a personal favorite of mine, right? Because he doesn't get he's never gonna get.
Kind of got late in the year too, right?
And he's never gonna get a 10-minute in-ring segment. He's gonna get like little videos, but they're always awesome. Yeah.
And Sami Zayn, obviously, because he's just been killing it. So honorable mention there. It's me then, right?
I think so, yeah.
Honorable mention to my boy Mox for always killing it. Joe brought in some late gems, like I said, but MJF's always just far away at the best. Like he's so perfect. The one guy I'd always listen to a long promo from. He can always garner heat, even when he had that faded babyface thing. A mega heel if there ever was one. He was gone for a chunk of the year too, and he still takes the cake. Lest we forget, he was absent in the summer and still clinches it. Like, even in his brief odd babyface spell, he still like just churned him out like nobody's business. Like that didn't really affect him much for me. It was still awesome.
Yep.
He's the easy pick here, which I think has been the case almost every time, maybe.
Yeah, he's and still super young, like what, 26, 27, something like that. So I think Owens makes the best of everything he's given, right? And sometimes he's not given great stuff. Sami Zayn was really close for me here, right? Like just his acting has been incredible. But neither of those guys win. It is MJF again. Like he's just the most consistently engaging and effective promos. He's a classic heel, amazing confidence and charisma. He can sell emotion, right? He can go from like cocky heel to cowardly heel, and it all works for him. He dabbled in a little bit of babyface, as you mentioned, which isn't our favorite, but that wasn't even bad. But it still
worked, and he came back full circle as well.
So it's MJF. It'll probably be MJF as long as he's being like focused on by a wrestling company, because the guy is fantastic. So now we'll talk about what we think the best character in either show is. How would you describe that? That's a tough one to...
Like their whole... it all encompasses their whole gimmick, you know, like like on the mic, just everything like they kind of do like other than wrestling, if that makes sense. Like their gimmick, their character, like who they are.
And in ring doesn't really matter that much to me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's more about how they're.
I mean, you could have in ring stuff play a factor, but it's not the thing, if you know what I mean.
I hate saying gimmick, but I think that's what we mean.
Yeah, like it feels weird using that word.
I
but
know.
Like I don't know, you kind of have to sometimes.
So nominees?
We have Roman Reigns, the forever champ.
Right.
MJF,
Literally,
Sami Zayn again.
Yeah.
Britt Baker, I think.
I put question mark because I think her character work is awesome, but again, it was a step back this year.
And Jon Moxley.
Yep. Is it me?
Yes, sir.
So I feel like it was a kind of a down year for character development in AEW, right? Just because, I don't know, not as much Hangman Page. Anyways, just in general. So again, no surprise, Canadian boy, Sami Zayn, incredible work. Like just him as this outsider trying to ingratiate himself into the bloodline.
And honestly, I forget why he even did join the bloodline, but like I guess like to not get in their way, but I don't even remember why.
I think it started as kind of like comic relief, right? And then he just is so good at getting sympathy from people through his acting. Like he's feels like a legit actor. Um, so he gets this
I'd like to see him in a movie.
and by quite a bit of a long shot, honestly. Just like again, as the bloodline story was kind of waning, he jumped in, and this became like the thing you had to act or to watch. Sorry, and he can like his acting and not just like for a wrestler is really good. And it's like again the one thing I kept up with in WWE, especially once he was involved. So I think it's Sami Zayn.
Yeah, Sami Zayn, our good Canadian boy, killed it this year. Has to go to him. Honorable mention to Hangman though, who tends to deliver great work and like he gets some decent depth with his work.
Yep.
But he was down from last year indefinitely, so only an honorable mention here, even though he's my boy. Zayn didn't start off the strongest, like I said, with all that jackass nonsense. But once he hit the bloodline, we were off to the races. He breathed new life into the whole group. It was easily the most entertaining thing on SmackDown, albeit the main roster. He acted it perfectly, and his whole dispute with Jey Uso yielded a surprisingly rewarding payoff in War Games, and he made people care about a T-shirt bit.
Yeah.
The whole thing where they rip out the T-shirt and give him the honor, like people, you see it on his face, the reaction when he gets it, like, and you think he's getting kicked out. Like his acting there was amazing.
You like
and
feel bad for him,
right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
The sympathy he garners from a T-shirt and the pop he got for getting the new one is like that's so stupid when you just like on paper, but he made it like this whole amazing thing.
And then he says you're not feeling very oozy,
right?
Or breaks the internet
just,
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's a testament to his work, and it just like people go nuts when he gets taken out, but that's another payoff in and of itself, or kind of not, or a build to the big tag title payoff, which I assume is happening with him and Owens, which I think should be pretty sweet.
Yeah, he's awesome this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our next category I don't think is going to take long because it was pretty easy pick for us. One of the more obvious ones for if you listen to our weekly show, you're going to know.
Handing out an easy one.
So best weekly television show of the ones we watch, right? Which are what? Our
Raw,
nominees.
SmackDown,
Yep.
NXT 2.0. That's it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So we have Dynamite, NXT, and Impact.
Mostly Impact.
Two of which I don't watch, really.
Well, you check out some.
I check out both occasionally, but like.
So it's is it your turn? I think.
I believe so.
So I wonder what could it be. I'm in suspense right now of this.
Should I keep you waiting then?
Yeah, no.
Dynamite is the easy pick by a large margin. It did have its downs this year, I'll admit. But by far the least of the major ones. It's consistently the best, delivers what I want the most. Picking NXT would be an absolute joke. Even though they improved a bit from 2.0, it's still lame, nowhere near worthy, and it still feels kind of the same to me. If it had reverted back for real, then maybe it would at least get an honorable mention for me. But it doesn't. That's just a joke, and I don't really watch Impact, even less so main roster, that they don't even get a mention.
Yeah.
I guess I mentioned them.
I already said it. It's probably the weakest year, but still a really good year, and that's Dynamite wins again this year for me by a pretty wide margin. Impact is inconsistent. Like I never hate it, but I don't often love it either, right? And NXT is improved from 2.0 days, but it's still not great. Maybe getting better as they sort of pack the roster with more experienced people. Don't really watch Raw or SmackDown, and when I do, I don't like what I see generally. So it feels like there were more weeks of AEW TV that I didn't love, but still the best wrestling easily. And I look forward to watching it every week still. Like it's never really super disappointing, even if it gets like a C or C+ rating. Yeah. That's not terrible, right? So it's not a waste of time. And that's
I feel like it's kind of like The Office, where bad AEW still beats out most of the stuff, most of the other stuff you're getting. Right?
So it's Dynamite. All right, so following best weekly show, we're going to talk about best pay-per-view or premium live event, right? So I think the criteria there we don't need to elaborate on. So I don't see. I kind of threw a WWE one that.
So I don't even think I finished.
I ended up going back and watching everything or virtually everything, and like I was like, it was good. I enjoyed it, but I'm sorry. Go ahead. What are the nominees? We'll get to it.
AEW New Japan Forbidden Door.
Yes, which I almost forgot about. Right.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Revolution from AEW. AEW Full Gear, which was their last one of the year. I guess unless you want to count ROH, but yeah.
I don't.
And WWE's Clash at the Castle,
which gave us Gunther and I was gonna say Gunther and Walter, but that's not
Sheamus.
right. Yeah, Gunther and Sheamus.
Rollins, Riddle,
right?
Reigns and McIntyre.
Right. I don't know who's first. I forget.
You.
Me? So I went actually back through my notes because I will never remember what the card is and how well I thought of the matches. So I actually went back through my notes of pay-per-views and realized that Full Gear was my favorite, and that's just to say that it's not necessarily recency bias, right? I actually did go back and review things, right?
Right.
So there was several matches I loved on there. The opener, right, was Luchasaurus Jungle Boy in a cage that really over-delivered for me.
Mm-hmm.
The first Death Triangle Elite, awesome, right?
Oh yeah, that was
Jericho, Claudio,
Guevara,
Danielson, awesome. And then there were other matches that were really good. What, like, the worst match on that show? I don't know. Was it probably Cargill?
Yeah.
I would assume.
Who did
right?
she even face? Nyla Rose.
Willow?
Nyla
Rose.
Because the whole stolen belt saga.
Oh, right. You stole my property,
and she
so
wore
now
the
you get a
Chitara
match.
bit, I think.
Yeah. Forbidden Door would be my honorable mention. That show was awesome too, but there wasn't really any build for it, right? It was
Not
just
a lot.
It was AEW versus New Japan and not a lot of storytelling. So yeah, for me it was Full Gear was awesome, and I thought it was a strong year for AEW pay-per-views. Like they never I pay real money for those.
Yeah.
And I never regret it. So that's it, because I'm not a cheap man, but like I would be annoyed if I didn't feel I was getting value.
Absolutely.
And I do. So yeah, for Full Gear.
I agree. Honorable mention for Forbidden Door because it produced some great matches and I loved it a lot. And it was unique. I can't wait for the next one because apparently they'll do another one, which is awesome. But Full Gear was their best work. I think tops anything else. Although AEW's episode was generally great still, with their 4 usual pay-per-views and Forbidden Door, like I think they do always deliver, and I think it's always great stuff. The cage match was great, like you said. The trios match killed it. I just love that, and the return moment was awesome. The ROH 4-way was they were all fantastic, and then nothing else was bad too. And you had some good ones like the main event too. And not to mention, like, there was a lot of surprising results, which I thought was cool. And I remember also talking about, like, there's a lot of storyline things coming out of the show, which I think is important.
Yeah, I almost felt like they reset's a strong word, but, like we came out of it with
kind
new
of like a bit of a revival.
Yep.
So I think for that, like, it deserves definitely the best one.
Yep. Again, I think this one's going to be pretty transparent.
Kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, so we're talking about best promotion. So take a wild guess. We'll go through this one quickly. Nominees?
AEW, WWE, Impact.
Yeah. So I lumped NXT in with WWE just to give them a fighting chance, but guess what?
No.
Are you first, I think?
Yes.
Yeah.
So shocker. I'm gonna go with AEW. Best matches consistently. All the pay-per-views were sweet.
Yep.
Half the year Vince still ran WWE, so they were at that disadvantage.
Enough said.
Triple H didn't really close the gap.
Right.
AEW was the most entertaining. They're the most interesting all around. Storylines, matches, etc. It's just the best.
Yep.
Even when they're on a downturn, they still win.
Yep. AEW really easily, generally good to really good TV. Really strong pay-per-views and not very strong competition, I would suggest, right? So WWE's pay-per-views are really underwhelming. We maybe find a match or two we like, and Impacts are just inconsistent, and then there's so many of them, right? It's like they have those ones that are barely a pay-per-view, and then a week or 2 weeks later, there's a major
here's Bound
one.
for Glory.
Right, so it's AEW, surprise, surprise.
Yep.
All right, next category will be Best TV Match, just because we love to talk about matches, right? So we want to narrow it down.
And like it gives some spotlight to some that won't make the general one, right?
Right.
Which I think I like.
So we have quite a list of nominees for this one. You go ahead and do that.
So we got Jamie Hayter, Hikaru Shida from Holiday Bash, a fairly recent one, but
I love
a
that
great
match,
one.
yeah.
Guevara Rhodes, which is the Beach Blast ladder match for the undisputed
so I was going
TNT
to say
title.
The other end of the year, because that one was early on.
Yeah, the epic spot one.
Yes.
There was like the cutter one. There was something else too. There's like a superplex, I want to say.
There was some really good
There's some
spots
sweet stuff
that.
there. The first appearance, the first time I saw Takeshita, him versus Hangman from Dynamite, May 18th. Garcia versus Danielson, August 17th on Dynamite. Bailey Alexander from Impact. Takeshita versus Moxley, Fyter Fest Night 1. Harwood Ospreay from Road Rager. Death Triangle United Empire from August 24th Dynamite, which is pretty sweet. And Elite versus Death Triangle New Year's Smash. Don't ask me which match that was. It was one of them. Is this?
This is
no.
me.
This is you. Yeah, this is
It
you.
is
Okay.
me. There were some amazing TV matches. Let me qualify that by saying in AEW this year.
Oh yeah,
And
there's some I love so much.
And a couple in Impact, to be fair. And honestly, like, just to talk about a couple, like, the first Takeshita match, right? Like, we're like, okay.
That hooked me.
Who's this guy? And, he has a pretty cool look, and he's got some good size, and, yeah, he was fantastic. Love that
the amount of amazing trios matches we got this year, not even to mention the Best of 7 series, but, like, even the tournament, like, seeing United Empire involved was really awesome. Like, there's a lot of great stuff. And Dax had a great year, too, so he delivered a lot on TV.
And we loved Death Triangle United Empire. That match was awesome.
Was sweet.
And most recently, Hayter Shida was a great TV match, main event.
Late edition.
But none of those win for me. it came from a different promotion and it came really late in the year. So
And kind of out of nowhere too.
I'm really glad Impact's going to pick up at least one award here tonight. And for me, that was Mike Bailey and Josh Alexander. Like, the match started at about halfway through the show, right? And I'm like, I think I told you, because you watched it with me, right? I was there at the time going like, oh, Bailey and Alexander, that's really good for Mike Bailey. And then it was like, oh, and they're giving, it's 15 minutes in, and they're giving him some time. Awesome, good for Mike Bailey. And then it just kept going, and it was incredible, back and forth. It was better than like 90% of the pay-per-view matches that I saw this year. Impact doesn't get much attention at all. So if you get a chance, if they posted it on YouTube, right? I think like days later.
Plus commercial breaks.
Fantastic match. Also happened to be between two Canadian boys, which never hurts, but fantastic TV match. Like, not something you get on TV very often. Yeah. So that one for me.
Yeah, I think it was not plus commercial breaks, like, oh, hey, you get commercials, but like I think plus what you would have missed.
Yeah.
So it's like the complete match.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true. It would be even better, probably.
Yeah. So honorable mentions to Takeshita Hangman for coming out of nowhere, hooking me on Takeshita. TNT ladder match was pretty sweet for some absurd spots.
Yeah.
Takeshita Mox for being an equal successor, and all the trios nonsense was awesome. Just you could pick any one of them really. But I think the best one, I think I actually kind of agree.
I'm a little surprised.
I'm surprised too. As much as I want to give it to AEW, like for a Takeshita match or one of the amazing trio efforts we got, Bailey Alexander was just like a superb piece of wrestling. I don't really watch Impact, but I did catch it. It was great. It takes two special talents to go basically an hour. Ask Hangman and Danielson last year, which was, I think, my pick. I want to say the first Hangman Danielson.
I think it was
where they
too.
Went to a draw.
Yeah.
They kept a good pace too, and they did. I think it really helps that Bailey's really unique, so that really kept me interested. I think it was really cool. Some really gnarly pile drivers, and it beats out anything from main roster, of course.
Easily. Anything from maybe almost pay-per-view main roster for me. But anyways. So now we'll get into our matches of the year. We'll start out with the men. So go ahead. What are our nominees for that one?
We have Briscoe's FTR, Super Card of Honor.
Yeah.
I'd also say Briscoe's FTR from
the second one.
Don't tell me. Death Before Dishonor.
Couldn't tell you because I won't remember. But yes.
FTR Aussie Open from Royal Quest.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty good.
That was fun.
Reigns Rollins from Royal Rumble, which continues to be the gem of the main roster.
We love that match. Yep.
Rhodes Rollins from Hell in a Cell, where
also,
Cody was gross.
That was
an honorable mention to Street Profits Usos from Money in the Bank, which was a really nice main roster match.
Yeah, I think it's you, sir.
Yes, it is. So I took FTR Briscoe's the 2 or 3 falls effort.
Mm-hmm.
I think all 3 of their matches are fantastic, but this one was my favorite, easily the best one. The first one's a classic, but this one better on it, in my opinion. Harkens back to like Revival DIY with the 2 3 falls rematch classic, you know.
Yep.
There are 2 more falls to love in this one compared to the first one, and it was much better than the dog collar. Just a lot of like great wrestling. I remember the finish was really well done too. They were all great in this feud, but this one was the cream of the crop for me. Honorable mentions to Reigns versus Rollins for still at the Rumble for still being my favorite thing main roster did this year. Like, that was just in the first month, which is kind of a backhanded compliment, but
right.
I think they deserve it. Like, that was just really good. I remember the booking, and that was like impressive how good that was. And then they immediately screwed the pooch on it, like literally later in the show.
That's right.
So, but that was still awesome, and I still love that for a main roster match.
Yeah, so you're both right and wrong. It is Briscoe's FTR, but it's the first match for me.
I'd say you're both right and wrong.
Interesting. From Super Card of Honor, I absolutely love this match. The crowd was like rabid before they even touched in this match, and I don't know, I just was captivated by this, and it stood out more than any other match. And I love the fact that both of us are choosing tag team wrestling, just because I really like tag team wrestling, and WWE doesn't really offer that. To any degree. So this match was fantastic. Just 2 amazing teams. They're willing to do anything to entertain, and you can tell they just love wrestling. So I love that match. So it's Briscoe's FTR. They got a clean sweep from us, just 2 different matches.
Exactly.
All right, so now moving into match of the year from the women. And for me, this one wasn't hard for me. So what are our nominees?
So Slamovich, Jordan Grace from Bound for Glory. Belair Lynch from SummerSlam, Sheeta Hater from Holiday Bash, already mentioned, and Jordan Grace versus Giselle Shaw from Impact.
That was just a little bit of a dark horse that I really enjoyed that match, and really has started to get me very interested in Giselle Shaw. I think she's really good and should have a big year in 2023. I don't know who's first this time.
You.
It's me. So when I finished watching my winner in this category, I think I even said it on the podcast. Like, I don't think I'll see another match better than this. And if I do, good for me sort of thing, because it was amazing. And that was Masha Slamovich, who I have literally bought a t-shirt. I got a t-shirt of hers for Christmas from your mother, right? Because I told her I wanted one. So Masha Slamovich and Jordan Grace, absolutely fantastic match at Bound for Glory. Just brutal physical violence. It is one of that and the Briscoes match are the two that really, really stood out to me this year. I love this match. And again, not a lot of people have probably seen it because Impact, right? So go out of your way to find this one. It is amazing.
So I'm going off of what I've watched, of course. I'll go with a bit of events I pick in a late one. I think both the Blair Lynch matches were great. But I think I enjoyed Cheetah Hater more because I can't speak on what I have. I can't speak on what I haven't seen.
Yeah, and I love Cheetah Hater too.
So I'm gonna pick this one. The last stage of match was electric. A great first defense for Hater. I remember like the crowd was getting really into it, which was awesome.
Really good. Yeah, I loved it.
Impact may have done better, but didn't catch it, so it gets my pick.
Yep, that's fair.
Bit of a backhanded one.
All right, so now we'll get into sort of the large awards I would suggest here, right? The final three, I think. And that first we'll start with our tag team of the year, and I did not think this one was very hard.
So tag team of the year, we have FTR, who were the belt collectors of the year.
Right.
A la Kenny Omega the year before.
And to add to that, like, I don't know how to measure this in, but Dak's year as a singles, right? Like, sure, did he win a ton of matches? No. But did he have amazing matches
the singles one too.
all over? Yes, right? So I don't know if you can count that into the tag team, but Dax killed it this year.
The Usos for being the forever champs.
Yeah, and just
as they will be referred to.
Getting so much time on TV and so many matches and delivering all the time.
And they had like the one with the Street Profits was really good, but remember the segment with the New Day too was awesome.
Right.
Like I really loved that, which harkened back to the Usos that I did love.
Yep.
The Acclaimed already got the breakout one or whatever, which obviously warrants them being here as well.
Had a huge year, yeah.
Yeah, huge year. Briscoes, they had the best matches of the year, I guess. But
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Not much else. I guess they won the Impact titles for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
And then now they're ROH champs, which I forgot already.
Correct.
And then Motor City Machine Guns. Sure.
They're the champions now. Really good matches all
Double
year,
champs.
but like they're not going to win. Not to spoil it, but
Yeah.
Impact gets a little bit of a nod there.
Despite the bit of a decline at the tail end of the year, FTR is still the obvious pick. They had at least two of the best matches out of the year, along with an epic rematch opposite the Bucks. Dax was on fire on his own. Like Omega before them held 3 separate titles from 3 major promotions simultaneously. They're on fire this year, and while now they're empty-handed, it can't be for long.
No.
Honorable mention the Usos, the forever champs, the Acclaimed, who just caught on fire this year, and Aussie Open, who I was just happy to see every time they were on AEW.
Yeah,
they delivered.
If we saw more Aussie Open, like
It'd be closer.
I don't know. FTR had like an all-time year probably,
but still, Aussie Open would be a lot closer.
Right.
If they would have been more nominated, like, because I don't think they actually were, but like they would have been closer if they did, because Aussie Open's great. They just need more.
I would think this category
United Empire
would almost be consensus. It has to be FTR. Just amazing matches all over the place. Like super mega hot act that the fans just loved for months and months and months. And you had matches with Briscoes, Aussie Open, the Acclaimed, Swerve and Lee, I think. Even Top Flight, there was one in there that we really liked, right? So
I think so.
All awesome matches. And as I said already, I think this is like an all-time year for a tag team. And if you were to, I don't know, I was going to ask you if you were to pick like one act that had the best year, but I guess we shouldn't, because we might reveal our picks for the next two, you know what I mean? So we'll come back to that maybe if we remember. So next, our penultimate category, I think, is the female wrestler of the year. And who are our nominees for that one?
Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch.
Begrudgingly, the next one.
I was about to say that word. Mandy Rose.
Right.
I guess just like accomplishments
on
alone.
Resume, yeah. Yep.
And Jordan Grace.
Yep.
I forgot who went first already.
I think you did, because I just finished, right?
Right. Okay,
right.
That makes sense.
So this one wasn't super hard for me either. Unfortunately, our favorite company has issues with their women's division, not through the fault of the talent, through the fault of creative or whatever. I don't think they've created any major stars, but I do think Hater's on the way to that, right?
Not since Baker, which has declined.
Yeah. Jordan Grace had a great year, and she's really, really good. But she's not very visible on Impact, right? And Mandy Rose, held the title all year, obviously, and got a ton
and
of
then
time,
just
but
unceremoniously was gone.
and her in-ring stuff doesn't really deliver
Yeah.
either, right? Like at best, her matches are it was
Passable.
good, it was
Yeah.
okay, you know. So for this reason, I gave this, and I imagine this is most people's choice as well. It's Bianca Belair this year. She had an excellent year, some really strong matches that I liked with Becky Lynch and some others, and a point that I sort of added late that I thought of, like, this company, maybe this business, but WWE for sure really struggles mightily to create any sort of strong baby face, and she is one, right? Like
Yeah.
she's and without being a stupid baby face, right? She's a strong, intelligent baby
Which they
face.
kind of dropped the ball with her the year before.
Correct.
And I think they kind of recovered.
I agree. And this year they've presented her the way they should. So I think she could probably be an even bigger star, to be honest, but that's not her fault. She, I think,
reality
had the best
show
year.
baby.
So Bianca Belair wins it for me, which I'm happy because I've loved her since early NXT and going like, this girl's
even
a
when
star.
she wasn't like fully polished.
Right, like she's a star. Just stick with her, and she is. So I'm happy for her.
Yeah, and one of the successful call-ups, which is weird.
One of the most successful ever, I would say, from NXT.
So yeah, I'm gonna take Bianca Belair too. She held the title since Mania, and unlike Rousey or Morgan, opposite her on SmackDown, she had a great run.
Liv Morgan, yeah.
Like SmackDown was just a mess with their division.
Yeah.
A pair of great matches with Lynch, some solid ones with Bayley, some of the best ring gear.
True, that she makes
business.
herself.
Yeah. Though WWE definitely still struggles with solid baby faces, like you said, she is an exception. She's a gem in the women's division.
She is.
Great to see her still shining, like her theme suggests.
Oh, nice.
And she was the obvious pick, but honorable mention to Becky Lynch, who's kind of like ever reliable as Seth Rollins.
She is. It's true. They're kind of similar in that sense.
Speaking of.
All right, so our final category of the year, and that is to pick our male wrestler of 2022.
Yes, sir.
Nominees.
So nominees, we have Moxley, who kind of carried AEW through thick and thin.
Did more than he thought he had to. Was still supposed to be taking a vacation at some point.
I don't think he did.
Right? So he basically put the company on his shoulders after the debacle where most of their top talent was suspended for months, right?
Yeah.
So, yep.
And Dax Howard, who is taking vacation. FTR are taking a break for a bit.
I saw that.
Yeah. Roman Reigns, the forever champ.
Yeah, a huge, undeniably gigantic year, right? Yeah.
Seth, not freaking Rollins. It's just like he was reliable. He really deserves more credit.
He does.
He was the best thing in Raw because let's be honest, as much as they want to tout the dual brand titles, Bloodline aren't there too often.
Right.
So Rollins was really left to his own devices, and he lost most of the year, and I still think he deserves to be here.
No, he had a really good year.
Even just with the U.S. title.
Probably a bit underrated. Yeah.
Mike Bailey, Josh Alexander from Impact, and MJF as a little bit of a late one, but I think still deserving.
Yep. And for me, Bailey had anyways, I think I put it in my notes, so I won't say anything about Bailey now, but I think it's your turn, so go ahead.
Honorable mentions to the forever champ Reigns, because obviously no brainer, unified the titles, as boring as that was.
Yeah.
He was he had some of the biggest matches of the year. He does deliver some good ones.
Best storyline of the year, probably, right? So
honorable mentions to my boy Seth for carrying Raw late in the year, despite losing. He still I really enjoyed his short run with the U.S. title. I think his in-ring work's always stellar. And so I think he deserves an honorable mention. And Dax for being an early runner. Like, he was probably, if you did, half-year awards.
Yep, I remember it being around July and me going, he's still in my top couple this year, yeah.
But the pick has to, and I mean has to, go to Moxley. If anyone has ever deserved anything,
wow,
he
strong.
Deserves it. Absolutely. He's everything a top guy should be. He picked up the ball when Punk dropped it time and again. He was undoubtedly the unsung hero of the summer. Everyone's touting Summer of Punk too, but it was his summer. It belonged to him. He consistently put up bangers with Danielson multiple times,
True.
Yuta, Takeshita multiple times, MJF, among others. It was just, Sheamus likes to say, but it was banger after banger after banger, And I don't think he never cut a bad promo. He really picked up the slack on shows when needed, like when they have to call an audible. Moxley's the guy you want to rely on, right? He elevated talent in the process, whether it's in the ring or on the mic, opposed to what Punk did or said. He's incredibly deserving. I'm happy to say that because he's always been my guy. He was my guy since I started, and I'm also happy to say all the Shield makes it here, and I think deservingly so. I think they can all make a case for it, right?
Yep.
Obviously, I think Moxley is the obvious pick, but I think they can all make a case for being here, right? I think an underrated banner year for my boys, in a decade after they started too. So after they hit big, I agree. I think a bit of an honorable mention to Ospreay
for sure.
Because after the year is done, and after Wrestle Kingdom, he says emerged one of my current favorites. If it wasn't for Jay White,
He's amazing.
Ospreay would be my New Japan guy. He's just an absolute joy to watch in the ring. He's become so much better, like, all around. But back to the point, Mox is just absolutely the one here. Like, it's just, I don't know who else you pick, really.
Yeah, it's funny because you've always loved Mox or Dean Ambrose, and I've always said I'm not really that big a fan of him, but I think Mox is my choice here too. He had some great matches. He elevated young talent, which I really care about, like Yuta and Takeshita, right? Because I want
Punk
that.
said that's what he was there to do, and he did he did
Right.
anything but.
Right. He delivers really great promos. He always puts over opponents as best he can. And he, like you said, he was the Rock when AEW was just
He's like the most dependent guy they could have.
having issues with Punk. He gives up his vacation. He cuts like impromptu promos to fill time. Just whatever you need from this guy, he's there. And on top of that, he's out there wrestling for other promotions like GCW, where he's having like violent, bloody matches just because he loves to work.
He does bleed in AEW, anyways.
Right? Oh, he bleeds more than anyone as well.
Yeah.
And he held championships in other companies, right? So I wish I could make a stronger argument for Dax Harwood because I loved the, first 7 months of his year. And also Bailey.
Did he face Moxley? I don't think so, right? Like,
I don't
they
think
should have.
so.
Let me see.
And just the way Bailey, his run as X Division champion, I loved it, and I'm still bitter about them taking that title off of him and giving it to Kaz for no real reason. But
Option C, baby.
Right. So, and to be fair, I think you're right. If we were regularly watching New Japan, then Ospreay might have been the choice here because he's had like I don't know how many 5-star matches.
Apparently,
this year,
he's got like
several.
the most or something.
Yes, he does.
And yeah, he was awesome. I was really happy to see him. Like, I always thought he was cool, but honestly, this is the year where I really came to love Ospreay.
And his character work is
exactly
way better.
That promo before Wrestle Kingdom was awesome.
So it is anonymous, unanimous from us.
It's anonymous.
Words are hard, okay? It is Jon Moxley as our male wrestler of the year.
My boy gets it.
So I'll go back to my question earlier. If you had to pick like top act of the year, if we're going between your tag team female male,
just like best wrestler of the year period.
Just best act, I guess.
Moxley.
Really?
I'd still go Moxley. Like, FTR was amazing, don't get me wrong, but Moxley's just like, he's all encompassing. I think FTR had like some bangers, but Moxley's just like, he did everything. He's everything you need him to be.
FTR, and we forgot to remember their promo of what was it, Fight Like an 8-year-old Girl?
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Promo.
But I feel like Moxley can just uncork that anytime he wants. And like, to me, like, Moxley's like, if you're going to like best wrestler, like, he's the guy. He's great in the ring. He's an all-rounder in every sense of the word.
I might still take FTR just because I feel like you're starting a singles guy starting with the head start. You know what I mean? Tag team, it's harder to be so over and
that's true.
And again, they went everywhere and did everything. So I don't know. It's definitely there's no wrong answer between those two. I don't think.
I think that's fair.
All right. Well, I think that is bringing things to an end. We've got episode 130 coming up in a couple days. We'll hit our Saturday. Should be normal time too, because you don't have to work that day. So that's nice, right? So we'll be back for episode 130 on Saturday. We'll also get around to the worst of. I think I'm done. Are your document ready? Not quite.
No.
But anyways, just keep an eye out for that. Again, apologize that this is so late, but I kind of like it because by now everyone else's, you've listened to all of theirs and maybe ours feels fresh or you can compare it or whatever. But anyways, we're really glad you tuned in for any time to listen to us talk about this kind of stuff. So we will be back in a couple days to cover some more of the week of wrestling. And until then, I guess, do you have anything that you want to say?
Nope.
All right, then we'll see you back here on Saturday. And until then, take care.